Today we're out at the chicken coop. It's about 0 degrees today. It's supposed to go to a high of 3, which is, 35 maybe, 33. It's not warm. We don't have snow today, but we have had our first dusting of snow, and I'm living in Ontario. I am equal, my location is parallel if you draw a line between Peacham, Vermont, where Goldshaw Farms is, and across to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We get real winters. We can get minus 40 Celsius, which is equal to minus 40 Fahrenheit. That might only be for a week or two in the depth of winter, but minus 20 Celsius is not uncommon. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but I think that might be close to 0 Fahrenheit. I've let my chickens out. They went for a free range run this morning, so I can get into the coop and not worry about stepping on anybody. We've had our egg collection already this morning, and the birds are free to come back into the coop if they want to get at the nesting boxes. I'll just leave this door open for them. Come on in and see what we've done to help winterize our coop for the winter. The neighborhood barn cat is here, so our chickens are fine with him. What you have here behind me, we have twin coops. The brown one was built for last year's flock, and the gray-blue one was built for this year's flock. They're basically the same design, 4 foot by 8 floor, 4 foot by 8 front, a 2 foot by 4 foot back, and then this a monoslope roof with east-facing windows so they get sunlight as soon as the sun is up in the morning. We've just now, in the past week, put a roof on this for the winter, and that's mostly to keep the snow load out of here. In the summer, we had this wide open, so they got lots of sunshine. We didn't want to shovel out this 16 by 20 area for our chickens in the winter. We just wanted to protect them from the snow and give them space to run around. If it comes down to it that this is too much and we want to greenhouse effect them a little more, we can put a divider up here and have them just in one side of the run. Now let's go look at the coops. This is our original coop. Let's have a look in here. Some of the ways we are protecting our chickens is when we built our coop, we insulated it. So here in between we have sheets of styrofoam, and then just a thin inner wall. That could be done with paneling or anything. The outdoor exterior structure is very solid, and then we have the insulation and a thin layer inside. With the 1.5 inch insulation, we've provided them a little bit of protection from drafts, and their body heat can keep the coop warm inside. For our flooring, we have the deep litter method. It is pine shavings, and that reduces drafts on the floor. The manure composts in place, and we just need to add some more to this now because it's a little thin. Usually this 4 by 8 space is filled by 1 bale to cover the whole floor. The roosting bar is relatively short for 6 birds when we originally built it, but they huddled together in only half of that bar, and it's probably 4 feet long. They huddle together so tight, they always snuggle up together. Even in the heat of summer, we found they were snuggled up together in this thing. Here's our human access door. Straight above, I'll show you. This is where the roof and the walls meet. There is insulation in there to reduce the space of the gaps, but there are gaps so ventilation, moisture, and such can get out. And in the heat of summer, the heat can escape. Here across the back, can you see here across the back where the roof and the wall meet? Most of that is pretty secure and sealed, but we do have a few gaps over here on the left side. There are a few gaps over there in the back, so there is a little bit of a draft there, and this new flock has been nesting up there. I'm hoping they have the sense to get out of the draft. We can also go in and put silicone caulking on that to seal that up a bit. You can see here on this side of the run that we have hardware cloth. This is, I think this is a 1/2 inch. On the lower portion we have 1/4 inch, and that allows us to protect them from random dogs that are running around. which is a thing out here. We have unleashed dogs. And we have some crazy chickens that are running all over the place. But the hardware cloth is strong enough to keep out those stray dogs and the cats and mice and all of that. We do have the hardware cloth is skirted, and then we put soil on top of it so that there's 1.5 feet of material outside of the bottom of the run. This is not going to do anything to winterize them. Let me show you what we've done. Here on this side, we've put some very thick plastic. It will reduce winds and it will create a greenhouse effect in here so that even if it only brings it up 4 or 5 degrees and reduces the wind, that allows the chickens to be outdoors during the day. It will also help to reduce some of the wind that's hitting the coop. Summer or winter, it's equally important to provide your birds with, all of your livestock, with water. You may think, oh, they're not sweating, they don't need water. No, they need water for digestion, just like we do. We're supposed to get 2 liters a day. They're supposed to have their quantity every day as well. So how do you keep your water from freezing? There are lots of methods. We've chosen this. There's an electrical cord running down the side of the run, right to a heated dog watering bowl. So Dan will bring out water every morning and fill this up. It needs to be cleaned and filled right now, but they don't mind. They'll drink out of that quite easily. Oh, and there's Sylvester. There's the cat again, right in with the chickens, and nobody cares. Oh, that chicken says, no, go away. Well, I don't know, is that rooster just they're going to attack him. So the chickens and the cat are not a problem. The cat's more at risk than the chickens are. The cat has watched the chicken through the fence for months. Hello, Penny. She was just in to lay an egg. So we've gone over the insulation on the coop, we've gone over the deep litter method, we've gone over the plastic sheeting to keep the wind down, we've gone over the ventilation, we've gone over the dog bowl. What else is there? Come on, let's go. Let's find out. The next important part of this is feed. You need to keep them fed, of course, but what are you feeding them? You can get crumble or mash or whatever that you feed them as standard fare. It's good to increase their protein, their carbs, and their fats. We have our feeds here in metal trash cans so rodents can't get into them. We have our normal layer mash. We have cracked corn that we can add. We wouldn't give them exclusively cracked corn because it doesn't offer the variety of nutrients they need, but we can add it, especially as an afternoon treat that we can throw on the ground. Corn is high in carbs and it's going to help turn on their furnaces so they can get warm before bed. And we have mealworms. We bought this batch at the feed store. Normally we buy them online because they can be delivered right to the door. This is generally our feed area, as you can see, right? And then we have here just normal leaves. It's exactly what it looks like. It's leaves. What do I do with the leaves? We throw the leaves on the ground to insulate their feet a little bit from the snow or the frozen ground or ice or whatever buildup there might be there. It makes it safer for us to walk on the compacted snow or compacted ice surfaces. It gives them something to scratch around on. It insulates their feet. They can look for bugs and whatever happens to be in there, some of the things they might eat out of it. And it's just it's something we do in the fall to entertain them in the winter and to provide that protection for them. Of course, we're always providing the grit and I use crushed eggshells because they're not really fond of oyster shells, but if that's all they get, they'll eat it. The grit is necessary to help them digest, and we want them to digest properly in the winter. Back to feed for a second, I missed something. We've got their nutrients in the mash, we've got the carbs in their corn, we have the protein in the mealworms, but black oil sunflower seeds will give them the fat to help them to stay fat themselves. And we're not harvesting these birds. These are our keeper flock. We will harvest offspring from here, but that gives us overwintering. We get eggs from these guys. Not as many as we should, but we're getting eggs. One more thing I'm doing, I'm taking that layer mash, and I've got some in the house, and I'm fermenting it. Every 3 days I'll bring some out, so I have to have a 3-day rotation. I'll bring some out, and actually Dan feeds the chickens. So Dan will bring that out and bring the container back in. I'll start another one, and then there's 2 more on the go. So there has to be three container system plus the feed that I keep in there. So it's a 4 container system. You only need a quart or a half gallon to feed 11 birds. That's plenty. If you had a larger flock, you might need to use a 5-gallon pail or something. We do not heat our coops exactly. We don't have a heat lamp or a heat plate in there on a regular basis. There's no light in there. I know that lighting can help to encourage winter egg laying, but it can also run a risk of your chickens not laying for as many years as they have potential for, and it can lead to ovarian cancer in your chickens and all kinds of other health risks. We're just going to let them be as natural as they can. So that means we don't have to have electricity running to the coop. We do have an extension cord right here that the shed is just up behind the camera, so the shed's about 10 feet away. We can run an extension cord from the shed into the coop if we want to, and that's already that's already wired in through the walls. If we wanted to remove it, we could just unscrew a board and it comes out. But the electricity is there just in case. We hardly ever use it. Let me show you what we use it for. If I feel that my chickens need supplemental heating on those nights that it's -35, we'll put the chick brooder plate in, and it only throws heat off of one side, so we lay it on its side, and that has brought up the temperature of the coop 5 degrees. It's not a fire hazard. It's all completely contained. It is it's only 5 degrees. It's not going to throw off them being acclimated to the cold temperatures. It'll just give them some relief on those brutal days. Now that might be 2 weeks max that this is in there, and it's not necessarily going to be plugged in every day. We can plug it in, or we can operate the plug from outside. We could even get a thermal operated wall plug so that it only kicks on at certain temperatures, but I don't know how programmable those are. That's something we have to research. But we can come out when we put them to bed at night, close the doors up, turn this on, and then they've got the extra 5 degrees overnight. In the coop we have a temperature sensor that runs to a display in the house. Here's where we can watch the difference in the temperature between in the house, which is sitting at 20, and in the coop, which is sitting at 1.8. This display lets us know what the temperature is out, like in the house, but it also lets us know what the temperature is in the coop. And we can watch, I can set an alarm on it. If it goes to -32, then we know that it's time to plug this in. If it goes to +30, then we know we have to start providing them with cold water and ice. It's got alarms on it if we choose to. We also keep a hygrometer in the coop, and that helps us track the moisture. Now, last year we had a day that was nice and warm and mild, but it was raining in January. It was pouring rain, and for 3 days our coop humidity was really high, and there was not much we could do about it. What we did was put fresh bedding in there. We stirred up the bedding and put some fresh bedding in, and that helped to bring the humidity down. Plus it stopped raining. Everything froze, but we don't want the bedding to be frozen or wet or holding humidity, because the humidity is what's going to lead towards frostbite. These birds, I have Canadian brass. These birds have very large combs. They're definitely a risk of frostbite. Frostbite's not going to be comfortable for them, but they're living. That's cruel, maybe. I should do some research and find out about frostbite. But some of our girls last year got some frostbite tips right after that rain, that 3 days of rain. They're none the worse for wear. They're happy, healthy, happy-go-lucky. They'll let you touch their combs on a regular basis, so they're fine. I know it could be worse. And these roosters, the combs on these roosters, let me show you one of the roosters. These roosters have very large combs. So these roosters are probably at risk for frostbite. Right now their combs are looking a little black on the tips anyways, and we haven't had frosty temperatures yet. Not cold enough to cause frostbite. The entire flock has recently been through a heavy molt. There were feathers everywhere. But they seem to have fluffed up and gotten some downy feathers now, and they're ready to face the winter. Aside from a brooder plate, you could get an electric panel that you can put on the wall, and most people, I think, if they have it, they would leave it on all the time. I think it's called a cozy coop. I wouldn't use it all the time here because they need to be used to the cold as much as possible. They need those downy feathers to grow in. They need their bodies to acclimate. We're fine at 10 degrees in the fall, but the same 10 degrees in the springtime feels horribly cold to us because we've been indoors and snuggled up all winter long, so we're not used to the cold. Unless you're a person who's out skiing, snowshoeing, winter camping, snowmobiling, ice fishing, whatever, where you're still being acclimated, and you do that regularly so your body's used to the cold and your mind is used to the cold, that's different. The chickens need to be exposed to the cold so that they can get toughened up psychologically and down feathers and all of that. If you think about it, the blue jays don't migrate, the wild turkeys don't migrate, and lots of other birds don't migrate. So the chickens, maybe they're not from this region. You can get some breeds that are more winter hardy, more cold weather hardy. They'll have a smaller comb to start with. They might have feathers on their feet. These are not. These are a French. The white birds I've got are a French breed. The Bresse, they're from Bresse, France, and they've been brought into America and into Canada just in the past 20 years or so. My red birds and my ivory birds are they're a little more cold hardy. They're sasso. Another method you could use to warm up your coop is to fill a water jug or a vinegar jug, fill a gallon of water with warm water, hot water, and set that in the coop, and that'll radiate some heat into the coop. The problem with that is you're opening up that door, and if there's any temperature difference in the coop and the outdoors, you're letting that cold air in. And as the night progresses, that warm water is going to cool off and freeze. By morning, it's no different than if they had no heat at all. And it might actually be worse because they got warm, and it might release moisture into the coop. What if it leaks? It's an option if you have nothing else and you're really worried about them. But if that's the case and you have a shed or a barn, a shed would be great. You can put them inside the shed, inside a tent, just a cheap tent with straw on the floor, so that they're kept inside a building, inside another shelter that's going to keep their body heat in. And the smaller the height, the better, because just like winter camping, you want to keep that heat in a smaller space. And if you can do that, that would be beneficial to them. We do have an overhead heater in our shed, but we have never had to use that, and we've never put our chickens indoors either. Catching them is the American Bresse or the Canadian Bresse are flighty. I can't get near any of them, and there are 5 of them, and I can't get near any of them. The Sasso Ivory and the Sasso Scarlet I can get at. They're our babies. They are the most mild-mannered of all of our birds. They're sweet. So I think I've covered everything. So we have an insulated coop, and we have the deep litter method to provide warmth on the floor and keep the floor from being drafty. We have wrapped the run with plastic so that it's more like a greenhouse effect and they're not going to get so much wind. The coop is draft free, but it does have ventilation, so there's no moisture trapped in there. You do not want it airtight, like a house. You want to have some air movement in there. We have a dog watering bowl that keeps the water fluid for them, and we have a variety of feeds that provide the carbs, the proteins, and the fat. We monitor the temperature, we monitor the moisture, and we adapt as we need to. We have leaves to put on the floor of the run. Not the coop. The coop is pine shavings. We have leaves that we put on the ground of the run to give them insulation while they're outside during the day, and it helps provide some traction. And we've allowed them to acclimate by not keeping them heated and letting them go through their molt and providing them with the nutrients while they were going through their molt. So after that, it's just up to them to survive. We'll be monitoring everything else. And again, like I was saying at the beginning, we are just about, draw a line from Peacham, Vermont, all the way across to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That's where we are. We're north of Lake Ontario, but south of Ottawa. So we're just on that line. Geographically, we can get some nasty winters, and where we're located there are open fields around us, and we get some winds. We need to protect them from that wind. Our barn, our shed is right here, and then our coop is here, so the shed is actually blocking some of the wind. That's partly why we located here. And then we also have the slope of the roof to blow off any wind, and we have there's a line of trees over on that side to block some of the wind. If we have wind coming from the other side, that's where we might not have as much protection. Monitor your coop. Having a glass window in the coop helps, because if there's frost on the inside of that window, that means you've got a moisture problem. If you've got the hygrometer in there, you can watch that. It might be low because everything's frozen, but they're breathing, and that may still condense on the glass. That means you need to get in there and dry it out somehow. You need to put in fresh bedding. You need to stir up the bedding, or you need to otherwise come up with a method to get some moisture out of there. And that would be all for today. I'm going to try to wrangle these chickens back into the coop. You can hang around and watch that. That might be funny at this time of year. And I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. No. Come on. Come on. Chick, 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 chick. My camera shut off. I hope we got that. I have one straggler who didn't go in, but I needed to talk to her anyways. She has bumblefoot and I need to change her bandage. The mealworms are a game changer. Once you have them trained to the mealworms, there's no trouble getting them in.